Hello and welcome to the Career Journey Podcast, No Wrong Choices. My name is Larry Samuels, and I'll be joined in just a moment by Tushar Saxena and Larry Shea. This episode features Alex Fredericks, the CEO of ToneWell. Before we bring Alex in, please be sure to support our show by liking, following, or subscribing to it wherever you're listening right now. Let's get started. Now joining No Wrong Choices is entrepreneur and growth strategist Alex Fredericks. Alex is a co-founder of the company ToneWell, which I can't wait to learn more about because it sounds both fascinating and like something straight out of the future. The platform uses AI and voice analysis to tell us how we're feeling and how to better focus and leverage that energy. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
So I read an intro, which I think I wrote to make me smile. Hopefully it worked for others as well. But was that an appropriate setup? Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I mean, I'll take any setup, whatever gets me here, right?
Yeah.
So I am a consumer goods person. I started in the music business for about the first 18 years of my career, what I like to call head chef and bottle washer. I have no talent. Like, I wasn't trying to be in the business. I found a band in college. I closed my eyes. I literally saw it in my mind's eye. I was like, oh, I know what to do with this. 18 years later, I woke up one morning and said, wow, I will never be the president of Columbia Records. I should probably go do something else. So I did. And I went into consumables, skincare, cosmetic, fragrance, supplements, vitamins, pretty much anything that had somebody else's DNA. You were already a such and such, and why don't you have a skincare, a fragrance, whatever? And I did that for a good period of time. Short sojourn back in the music business, CMO of the first MP3 music server to the Middle East, lived in Bahrain. Wonderful experience, woke up to Arab Spring, so that wasn't happening. Clearly, the music business was not for me. And
I got to hear more about that portion of the story.
Back to New York, where I ran an agency until 2018, helping people transition from terrestrial into the digital space. And that led me into where I am today, which was I first started with products that were green, and then green became organic, and organic became wellness, and wellness is now longevity. And I literally just mean that by sales category, not by efficaciousness or the point of them, but just sales category. And when I left the agency world in 2018, I specifically went headlong into things that were wellness technology based. Neurofeedback, QEEG machines, PEMF, red light therapy, hyperbaric, NAD, anything that was kind of in that world, until I was very fortunate enough to have what I call a chocolate and peanut butter moment, meaning where two things slammed together and something better came out. And I was working with an amazing PEMF company called Amp Coil, and their technology allows the ability to change the sine wave and the frequency that bundles on it for a great delivery. And having a conversation with their science team for one of the very specific things they did, I came across what is now ToneWell. And the way that happened was because when I was in the music business and started making records in the late 80s, early 90s, there would be an oscilloscope on the mix desk, so a circle with a cross in it, and there would be this infinity symbol. And when the infinity symbol was fuzzy, you would say to somebody, that's out of phase. And then you would start at the bottom of your stack and go to the top and turn knobs until it was a nice smooth symbol. And you say, wow, that's totally in phase. We can move on. So fast forward 30 years, I'm having a conversation with somebody about frequency resonance, and I just implicitly got it. And I said to them, oh, cool, you're going up the road, meaning you're delivering something to somebody. Can I come back down the road and have you analyze my voice? And they said, yeah, of course. People have been doing that for 30 years. We just haven't. And I said, but we are going to. And that's where my entrepreneurialism, I've always said to people, like, I've been a solo practitioner, a solopreneur, right? I've been an agent of change. But that's where the entrepreneurial side of me went, you know what? I can do that. And so here we are today.
So let's all digest that for a second. Because that was
a lot happened. It was nice to have you on the show, Brad. It was nice to have you on the show, Lance.
So safe to say an eclectic career journey, I think, is the way to put that.
I like solving problems. I'm a problem solver, period. So, like, if I can see it, I know what to do with it. If I can't see it, I'm the first person to tell you I'm not that guy. I'm not the person for you. But I legitimately believe I could do like a puzzle upside down and backwards with no photo. Because I'll just see the patterns and then start putting it together.
Sure.
Now, mind you, if you turn it over, it could be completely wrong.
It's the wrong puzzle, yeah. So let's talk about the beginning, because you obviously shaped this throughout your life. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And I know something that we're going to talk a lot about here because it affected your whole world and how you see the world is your dyslexia as a child. So let's talk about and jump into what shaped you in the very beginning. Talk about your early life.
So I am a Generation X latchkey kid. Nobody's coming to save you type generation. I was born in northern New Jersey in Bergen County. I moved into Manhattan in 7th grade, into a neighborhood where I was the only kid that looked like me. So when I moved into New York, I became what I like to think of like rock on tour. It was the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Like I was a latchkey kid, meaning I was a child of divorce. I'm the youngest child in my family, and I was legitimately when the streetlights come on, come home kind of kid. And when I got to New York, it moved to as long as you make it to school tomorrow, kid. So I did that. It was a lot of fun. So to the dyslexic point, which is like to me a superpower, and I mean this generally, I can explain it in many places. I repeated 3rd grade. And when I showed up for the second time to 3rd grade, I'm on the playground with all of my friends, and the school bell rings, and they all went that direction, and I just stood there because I had to go that direction. Like, Alex, come on. I was like, nah, I gotta go that way. So it was like the biggest moment of embarrassment I'd had at that point in my life. And when I walked into the classroom, it dawned on me that I actually shouldn't sit all the way in the back. That what I should start doing is sitting all the way up front and just paying attention, because I actually can't read. Like until 6th grade, letters were jumbled. They would dance and jump. And I say to people now professionally, I'll happily look at that, but if you want me to read it, you have to leave me alone and I'll come back to you, because I can't. If you just looked at my reading comprehension score, you'd be like, wow, there's something going on with this guy. But if you looked at everything else at me, you'd be like, wow, there's something going on with this guy. So when I did 3rd grade a second time, I just started paying attention. It's actually that simple. And that also led me into music. I have 3 older sisters, and they were huge music collectors. And I just sat down listening to albums, and it taught me vocabulary and how to tell stories and meter and rhyme and getting your point across in short stanza, which I don't do because I like to speak. But with inside of that it allowed me, because it was a problem, so to speak, and I didn't want to go through the same thing I was going through. I started developing my skill set for overcoming the issue. And I've applied that straight through. It's how I got into the music business, because I literally see things in shapes and colors. So as I said earlier, when I found a first band in college and I closed my eyes, I saw it as clear as day. Now, I had no idea how to do that thing, but I saw it. So I just started working backwards, and that has made all of the difference.
So how did your parents then treat your dyslexia when you were a younger child? Was it a matter of simply saying, okay, you're a latchkey kid, kind of deal with it, or were they trying to find solutions?
So trying to find solutions. My parents were great parents. They just didn't like each other.
Right.
So my father, who was a very successful litigator as an attorney, wildly successful person, also was incredibly dyslexic and kind of just brute forced, as somebody born in 1936, just brute forced his way through the world. Right. To the point that he now can read like a history book that's thicker than, your encyclopedia type thing. So he understood it. So I went to, every afternoon after school, I was at the Learning Annex trying to deal with flashcards. And I did,
Gotcha.
First they thought it was weak eyes because that was the 70s. So I did all these prism exercises, follow the prism, right? Everything that was available. The funny thing, and I will give my parents full on credit for this, I'm also relatively rambunctious, known as hyper back then. And when the doctor was like, we should put him on whatever the heck it was in 1978, they're like, oh, no, absolutely not. We'll just put him into sports and he can burn off that energy over there. You're not going to affect the way that he thinks because you're saying that he's hyper, right? So I had really understanding parents. They're like, we're all very good friends now. Again, they got divorced after 23 years. I just happened to have been in 6th grade. You know what I mean?
Right. So the question then becomes, okay, well, obviously you had an issue learning visually, or learning in terms of when it came to, let's say, words and reading and comprehension of that nature, but you were able to learn in other aspects. So what kind of a student were you?
I was the type of student that was asked to never go back to that school, but they couldn't get rid of me because my grades were too good.
Interesting.
So when I graduated from the Hun School of Princeton because I went to a lot of schools, and I was in all AP classes my senior year, with a notable exception of, like, had there been one more year, they'd been like, yeah, can we not get this kid back here? Because I have a really weird, unique ability of being able to split what my ears are doing, so I can hear 3 or 4 conversations, which means I can participate in one I probably shouldn't be, while this one's actually listening to what you're saying. And then when you hand me the test, I can actually just straight regurgitate to you the thing that you said. And you're like, I'm gonna get this kid.
You are the
You're
best and worst friend a person can have.
Right. Exactly. And I'm exceptionally good at, like, math and sciences.
Right.
So what do you do with that? I'm good at history because you told me the story. It's a story. But math and science, I can actually look at it and be like, oh, I was the obnoxious kid in the physics class, like riffing with the teacher because I just got it. Like, there's some things that you can just see. Like, I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? I'm a black belt at it, and I train every day, and I drive people crazy because as soon as we're rolling, I close my eyes. And they're like, the hell are you doing? I was like, well, my eyes are lying to me, one. But two, far more importantly, you're just a shape and a color. So as soon as my hands are on you, I know exactly what you're doing, and I don't need my eyes any longer. And that's the same thing of paying attention in a class. When somebody says something, you can put a value to the importance of it, and now it's that shape, right? And how many times they repeat it is the color code, so to speak. And then now you have a picture. So I just have a filing cabinet in my head that I know how to, like, Dewey Decimal System. I know how to cross-reference all of the parts and pieces to make it always active for me. Reading, completely just, one of my favorite albums of all time is a band called Tangerine Dream. They have an album called Ricochet. For about 10 years, I called it Ricochet. Because until my very dear friend, and I tell the story because I find it funny, until my very dear friend was like, dude, I got that Ricochet album. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He's like, you recommended it to me. I saw it at your house. And I was like, I have no idea. He's like, oh, that one. I was like, oh, that's Ricochet. He's like, that is not Ricochet.
That's great.
You know?
Talk to us a little bit about the music. So you eventually pointed yourself in that direction. You figured out how to be a good student. When did you feel yourself start gravitating towards music? Like what was that discovery process, and did you become a musician?
So I play the trombone and I have no talent. But when I went to college,
I'm a trombone
like
player
Tushar.
yeah,
trombone player as well.
And no talent at all.
Right. I ended up at the University of Vermont. The one school I wanted to go to was Colorado College in Colorado Springs because of how they teach. It's like intensive for 6 weeks or something like that, and then you move on. And I ended up at a big university, Division I University of Vermont. Not the biggest, but big enough. And the first day that I walked into it, like a 300-person lecture hall, I went, I'm screwed. Because you're not actually teaching me anything. And then you said something like, and go home and read these 85 pages for tomorrow. And I went, oh, I'm in a lot of trouble. So I became a philosophy major because I really like philosophy, and I could take forever to read whatever book. And by the time my sophomore year rolled around, I was skiing a lot, and I just found a band that I went, that makes a lot more sense. And I'd rather be a pirate. Like, I'd rather go out on the open road. I'd rather be Jack Kerouac. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather just be an actual existentialist as opposed to reading about it in some book being taught to me, no offense to the professors, by a guy that's working on his tenured paper for 35 years. So he's been in Vermont for 35 years and is teaching me philosophy. Yay. So I just, damn the torpedoes, just type of mentality. Let's just get into it.
So what does it mean you found a band? You found a band to be in? You found a band to manage? What does that mean?
I found a band to manage. Again, you don't want to hear me sing. And though I used to play trombones with bass pedals because it was really interesting, it was just because I was bored. So I was at a like party, like a fraternity party one night with a friend of mine who brought me there because he said to me, you need to check out this band. I think you really might like them. Okay, I'm not really a fraternity house guy, but I'm happy to go. I walked downstairs and I legitimately had I can see this moment. So like anything that you want to bring to life, any sort of product, any sort of idea, if you can't see it in your mind's eye, I hate the expression fake it to make it. I hate it. It should be if you can see it, you can be it. Because as soon as I saw this band and closed my eyes, I'm a kid from New York. I know how to dance. I have good enough rhythm. I was moving great. No, I saw it in my head. I could see where they should be. I think that I can get you on tour with X. I think you could be at Madison Square Garden. I think that we could. How? I don't know. I just see it. Believe me, I see it. And then I literally just started working backwards. How do you get a booking agent? How do you? And I was proficient enough at that my first job was being a booking agent for a big company because I was up in Vermont and there wasn't anybody north of Boston. So between Boston and Montreal, there wasn't a guy. I can be your guy. Like, let me be your guy. I'm your guy. And then I started booking bands. So if I'm booking you into my territory, I would start saying, how do I book my band into your territory? And it just, I was a music producer. I didn't want to be a producer, but I had bands that needed somebody. You have a demo? Yeah, I'll go do the demo. First, I had to learn how to plug in the cables. And then,
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's that type of process with almost anything. People just, like most people just don't want to do the work. Work doesn't scare me that way because I know that I'm not having applicable skill, right? And even though I may never be a master producer hanging records on my wall, I do know that when I walk into a studio, you can't lie to me about the buttons. And that's all I wanted was like the understanding of being like, oh, you mean when I do go get producer XYZ, fundamentally, I understand what's going on. And that's the building block to the next and the next and the next. So I ended up being a retail forecaster for a label, and that took me to the next level. And I was unfortunately run over a bunch of times, meaning like I found huge bands and I didn't get to go on for the ride, like the Almost Famous story. But
Right.
because I genuinely mean this when I say it, you're going to actually have to kill me to get me out of the game. I just woke up the next day and went, okay, learning lesson. Let's not do that again. But I can apply all of the things that were good until it went terribly wrong and know the things that went wrong to the next set of challenges. And that's what I mean when if you find yourself lost in the woods, you might want to stop for a minute and start recognizing the things around you, maybe build some shelter. I don't know. And that's just how I go about it.
Can you give us an example of one of those bands that took off that you just
missed
missed
out
on?
Yeah.
So yes, I will gladly do so, though I am paid for discretion, so I never talk about the bands that I toured that weren't mine. So
Okay.
I was fortunate enough, and they're wonderful human beings, so I will leave everything other than that as the caveat. So I was fortunate enough, or had the misfortune of discovering the Strokes.
Oh, wow.
And I produced the parts of the album that became The Modern Age, which was the EP that blew them up. And myself and my friends at the time booked their first, 15, 20 shows in New York City, like the Mercury Lounge and CBGBs and all of those things.
Yeah.
And I woke up dead one day to one of the funniest conversations that I've ever had in my life to their attorney, a woman that I dislike, which is fine, because she called me and said, Alex, you're not allowed to be the manager, which is all I wanted to be, the producer, the booking agent, and the agent. And I said, well, I don't actually want to be the agent, don't have a license. I could care less about being the booking agent. It's just something you need to do. Believe me, they're much better producers than me. I just want to be the manager. And she said to me, sorry, they signed a manager this morning.
Oh.
Oh man.
So welcome. I think it was actually karma, to be honest with you. I had broken up with the girl that introduced me to Julian, who's the lead singer. So I just took it as the universe giving me a giant smack in the face. It's not true at all. It's just a rationalization. But I've lived with the rationalization. Like, you just move on. And there are a couple other ones like that I was, but here's the thing. I am a big believer of the universe puts you where you're supposed to be. So I never took it as a woe is me. I just took it as like, wow, that's in the rearview mirror. I hope it never catches me. Right. And I just kept going forward.
I love this. So help me connect the dots and unpack the layers of the onion here. So you're in college, you see this band. How are you breaking through to get people to take you professionally? You're still in college at this time?
Yeah.
When you're just cold calling? Like, how does that process work?
So this is pre-email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is pre-email. This is 1994. I was very good at voices for a while. So I would call on behalf of,
Okay.
like I'm calling from Alex's office, please hold, that type stuff. I did that really well. I was, and I still am, adamant about homework, which is funny for a guy that can't read, but like I am a savant for information. The more I can get, the better my processor works. So, like all things, you start at the top and you work your way backwards. I want to be band X. Well, okay, who did they start touring with? Where and you just do thought trees, you know what I mean? Like strings and pins and stuff like that.
Love that.
And then
Right.
I recognized I was in the University of Vermont, which meant that Boulder or Madison or College Park or University of Maryland, like they're all the same, like, right?
Yep.
And this band happened to have come out of a fraternity. One of the guys was in a fraternity, so I said, "Hey, give me all of your chapters." That type stuff. Like, just how do you do information architecture? And then you start connecting the dots. For me, it was actually simple because Burlington was like not a major market, but an important college town market in the time when college radio was king. So I became friends with the club owner. I don't drink alcohol, so I've never been a threat to somebody in their club. Seriously, like you can let me in, you can put X's all over my hand. I don't actually care. I don't drink. It's just not my shtick at all.
Right. Right.
So I just started going out and like I met Buddy Guy or BB King, you know what I mean? Like Toots and the Maytals,
Yeah.
whatever, because it was a college town in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
right? Blues Traveler, who I knew since high school, so that doesn't much count. But like, bands like that, they would just come through and you would, "Hi, my name is, how are you? What, if you were me, where would you go? How did you do?" And the entirety of my life, even in today's world, I've always carried a notebook. I always will.
Yep.
I never won't. And I have a pen and I would just take notes. And it's just, it would be that simple. And then you were like, okay, what's the reference guide for that? Because this was back in the day when I'd have to go buy literally the blah, blah, blah guide to da, 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 whatever. And you get it and you would take a highlighter and it just worked. Like that pink sticky note that's sitting right over my shoulder.
Over your shoulder, right?
You know
yes.
what I mean? Like and until I've done that task, that sticky note's going to sit right there. And then you take it to, it's funny, like the world that we live in today with the ease of stuff, but people still making cat videos when you're like, you know what you could do with that, right? And they're like, "No, I don't." You're like, "Cool, I'm going to go do my thing," which is like how ToneWell came in. Like for me, so ToneWell isn't AI on the analytic side. That's actually a static database that we use an algorithm to match against. It's looking for outliers. But after that, AI makes the template that delivers to you our report, not the information. Information is a static database. That's how it's FDA and HIPAA and scalable and defensible, and you can audit it, fine. But once that happens, I can make 1 billion templates for anybody that wants to look at it. And I understand product flow because I've made an enormous amount of like skincare and fragrance. Go look at any average fragrance bottle and recognize there are like 50 parts in the thing and you didn't think about it. So you have to recognize in what order and how and to how much and that's so for me, I've built a pretty agentic business. There's myself and 3 people. If I get to 8, wow, that's a lot of people because the way that we're looking and pivoting and trying to get to folks and so the same thing has always been true. When I found a band in the 90s, and I say this to people, and I mean it genuinely. When I first started touring bands, I had to make the postcard, which meant somebody had to draw the front, draw the back, had to go to Kinko's, had to mimeograph, had to Xerox the front and the back until it was one, and then I had to print them all out on a huge sheet, so you had to cut them all, and then you had to label the front, stamp it, even if it was a wet stamp or I got a stamp from USPS, excuse me, and you stamp, still stamping, go to the mail, put them in the mail, send them to you. So anyone that came back to me, return of address, no return to sender, whatever, if I wasn't smart enough to go onto FileMaker and remove it, I was wasting 27 cents, 30 cuts. All of those things matter in process. So now today, like when you're writing something and it's about writing the right prompt, if you can't write 15 prompts, then get out of my way. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I once had to go to Kinko and make postcards,
So the question then becomes, okay, obviously you did a tremendous amount of work in your early career in music. So was that the goal, essentially, to become president of Columbia Music, or did you want to go into another aspect of the business? I think you had mentioned to me when we had a chance to speak ahead of time was that you actually just wanted to be a DJ.
Dude, I wanted to be Wolfman Jack. True story. Because the first album, seriously, the first album that changed my life was James Brown Golden Hits. It was a cassette, and I played it at nauseum until my sisters used to kick the door in and turn it off because I was obsessed with it. Because Wolfman Jack, I don't remember what radio station it was, had played it, and I was like, I didn't even know you could do that on record. So I went to the record store, and I was crazy young, like fifth grade, and I found this cassette, and I would just play it at nauseum. So Wolfman Jack is who I wanted to be. Honestly, I wanted to be a DJ. Until such time that Arbitron happened, which is where the automating of radio stations became.
Right.
So then I wanted to be a producer, but I recognized I actually can't read music, so that was the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went into the business because, like GE, I bring good things to life. It's all I wanted to do. No, but it's all I wanted to do. It's all I've ever actually wanted to do. It's why I say that I'm good at solving problems. Until ToneWell, I've been perfectly okay with building other people's stuff. Perfectly okay with it. There's a satisfaction in it. I have failed a lot of times. I've been thrown out of a lot of moving cars. I wish that would, whatever. It's all learn and move forward. But when I had ToneWell, it's why I call that chocolate and peanut butter moment. Like, boom, here's the Reese's. Oh my God, Reese's, right? Like that was why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I was perfectly happy. I'm totally good with answering phones for clients and being like, what's the problem? Oh, I got that.
Love this. So we're moving through the eclectic array of various careers here. We're in the music business. How long were you in the music business for, and what happened next?
I was in the business, I'm going to give it 18 years.
Okay.
And then I legitimately, I was in a planning meeting one day. I saw that the guy on the other side of the table was exhausted. I said to him, you have two options. I can sell you this entire budget, or you can fire me. He chose fire me. I would also. And then I told him what I wanted, why I'm okay with that, and how to use the plan. I happened to, at the time, have been running a label group with Phil Ramone, 16-time Grammy winner, one of the best human beings of all time. And we were doing reissues, essentially. Albums that had been messed up by some other administration or whatever, and we could come in and fix them. I did one-way product sale, meaning like I'd find Scion or some hospital, and we'd sell it one way, and nothing was ever coming back. And it was cool. I just knew that I'd hit the glass ceiling, so I left. And then I went and started working for a wonderful guy that was like the number one fragrance packager and developer on the East Coast. There's really only three in the world. One was in Paris, one was in LA, and my guy in New York. And
was that scary though, moving from a totally different world?
For me, no.
Okay.
I at the time was totally unencumbered. I wasn't married at the time. We didn't have children at the time. I am willing to bet the house on myself any day of the week. I have gone home in my drawers, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. That was a bad night of poker.
Right.
Figuratively, but like that's like, if life isn't the adventure that you make of it, whose life are you living? And that's just me. It's why I said earlier, like I wanted, like when I read, and I did read On the Road, and I did read Dharma Bums, I went, oh, you mean you can do this? Right? Like you can hop on your motorcycle and just go?
Yes. This is a certain generation with dreams of Kerouac in our sleep, right?
Yeah.
Would your attitude have been different if you had a young family at that point? Would you have had a different attitude, or would you still have been gung-ho and adventure, etc.?
When my wife and I got married, she lives where I am now. Well, she's from the area that I live in now, which is outside of Philly, between Philly and Princeton. And the notion of like, do we move you to New York where I'm still doing 200 days of the year, or do I leave New York and go down to where you are? And it was a half a second decision. There is nothing more important to me personally than feeling the fulfillment that I get from being with my partner. So everything else is just Jimmy's on the ice cream cone to me. I mean it very seriously. So Yes, I would have made different choices, but I didn't have to at the time, so it doesn't matter. And honestly, there's an actual there's liberation in walking away from golden handcuffs. It's why more people don't do it, because they're scared of, well, what if? If you're not willing to be the change you want to see in the world, as trite of a sentence that is, then like just that's cool. Just get out of the way. And I just felt a need to go into the world and do something that I wanted. I only want to be the best version of me.
So what was the bet? You pivoted towards fragrances. What does that mean? What was that the next part of your journey?
The bet actually was what I specialized in when I was at Sony. Wasn't what I was doing. It was people coming up to me and quietly, because I was one of the few people, like I literally lived in the elevator. I know it's a crazy thing to say, but in huge corporations like that, where everybody's sequestered to their floor and their divisions, the guy that's just going up and down in the elevator talks to everybody. And I learned that from one of my dear friends, Ralph, who was like a big DJ promoter for Sony. And I was like, he used to call me Carnal. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, Carnal, I just sit in the elevator. And then sooner or later, either the artist or the executive, whatever, comes in. He's a Dominican kid from Queens. He's like, nobody looks at me until the door's closed. And then I get the thing that I want, because he was a big promo guy.
Oh, that's so smart.
So I went,
This is networking 101
yeah.
right here.
That's the
why I give him credit.
craziest, smartest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's why I give him credit, because it was genius. So I started doing that. But I got the other side of it. I would have people look left and right, and then go, okay, Alex. So I just spent $1 million on artist XYZ, and I don't have any money left to do promo. If you were me, what would you do? And I would say things like, oh, you should call Frito-Lay, because they have 600 billboards in the tri-state area, and your artist would look great on their billboards. And they just want the association, and they would say, how do you do that? And I said, I'll do it.
I'll figure it out.
I'll do it for you. So I say that to say, when I left and I was sitting in somebody's office one day, and they introduced me to this guy. His name is Brandon Kahn. And Brandon, who is one of the most incredible designers ever, particularly in luxury goods, looked at me and said, you just left Sony. I said, yeah. He said, I have an enormous plate full of celebrity product people want to do. I don't want to deal with them. I want to be the designer. Do you want to deal with them? And I said, yeah, I'm great at dealing with people, because I genuinely don't care. Like, I'm not trying to go out to dinner with you, and I don't want the invite to the kid's party, right? Like, I'm good. So we started building and building. There was a period of time that if you were in New York, so it was New York, LA, and France, and Paris, that was it. If you were in New York and you were a such and such, so you were I don't know, you were Kiss, or you were Paris Hilton, or you were Nicole Simpson, or you were whatever it was, and you were a celebrity, a DNA, and you were moving into that world, we were the people in New York that got it. And what I was very good at was translating your DNA, right? Like, you're Carol Shelby, right? And you're famous for the Cobra car. How does that fit into your packaging? How does that fit into your smell? What shelf should that be on? Where are we trying to sell it? Who are we talking to? How are we talking to them? It has to be an extension of what they already know you for. So if you're Paris Hilton, if you're Jennifer Lopez, if you're Kiss, if you're Tommy Bahama, I can just keep going down the list. How does your DNA translate into the next product? It could be toothpaste, it could be fragrance, it could be skincare, it could be a vitamin. I did Stacker 2 for Paula Abdul because she was very famous as a dancer. So nothing against her at this point, but like, it made sense to put speed in a bottle and sell it through GNC.
But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, as you're laying this out, is like, what do you have access to? So you're dealing with these performers, you're dealing with these artists, and you're trying to connect them to different product deals broadly, and it's up to you to brainstorm what you're going to connect them and attach them to.
Yeah. So,
or do you have a portfolio that you're pulling from, and you're trying to connect the portfolio brands to an artist?
The river flows both ways in that conversation. One,
okay,
you're a licensing company. I'll just put this into context. You're a licensing company like TPR. They're a licensing company in that space. And you're like, hey, I want to go approach, I don't know, Toby Keith, whatever. And because I think he would be great for our distribution retailers. Okay. They then say, could you put a perspective, like a mood board and a thing together for Toby so we can go approach him and do the deal? Yeah, sure. That's easy. Let me do some homework. Red Solo cup. The packaging should be red, whatever. Right? And you put it together conceptually. This is what it looks like. It feels like that. It has a hint of. We did a project for Lou Reed that was hysterical to me because he at the time a very, very, very grumpy man. And
at the time, isn't he always?
He was always. Particularly because we wanted to talk to him about luxury, and he's like, I only wear Rick Owens, and you're like, oh crap. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
but
that sounds like Lou Reed.
The mood board that we made for him was like a $1 billion looking thing in that weird homage. And I had to be the person to explain to him, sorry, Lou, we can't do fragrance for you because nobody wants to smell like a 65-year-old homeless man. So what we ended up doing for Lou Reed, what we ended up doing for him was like a really chunky jewelry line that went incredibly gangbuster as well for where we sold it and who the buyer was, because it made perfect sense to make like a chrome heartsy chunky thing. Nobody wants to smell. You look like a homeless man. Nobody wants to smell you, right? And that's what I mean. So that's one way down the river. The other way up the river is you are a somebody, right? You are a fill-in-the-blank celebrity, and your management, your agent, your team says, I think it's time for you to start doing brand extensions. Not product endorsement, brand extension. Yep. So then you come to a company like us again, and we brainstorm what the concept is, and then we can say, there's only 5 companies for you. There's actually only 3, because I can tell you what the other 2 are doing. Matter of fact, let's start with these 2. I'll get this first meeting, right? And that's the going in and pitching. I have a client. My client is X. You know them because of Y. This is all of their accolades. This is what they bring to the table. This is what it should look like. This is how it's good. And then after that, you become an agency. What can I keep on the table? The design, the packaging, the logistics. Am I doing the marketing? Are you doing the market? Then it just becomes agency.
It's really interesting.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
All right. So in this aspect of your life and business, I kind of want to get back to what you said before about the notion of dyslexia as a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you using your dyslexia in this aspect of your life, in your business life, to A, read people, but then B, problem solve seemingly sometimes on the fly to say, okay, so you know what, you belong with X product, or someone comes to you and you drop a diamond on them and say, hey, look, I got Frito-Lay out there. So when you're solving problems like this, are you solving them in a linear fashion or in a very visual kind of shotgun pattern kind of way?
It's not linear at all. Some of it is placement association. So, for example, if I ever met a guy named Jared and he had a red tie on, I could never forget his name for the rest of time.
Mm-hmm.
Jared, red tie, Jared.
Right.
Okay. So it's things like that. And then it's the ability to play association with yourself, right? Because it's easy to get a monosyllabic word. I couldn't spell dinosaur if I wanted to. Seriously, I've tried it a million times. It just doesn't come out in my head. There's a jumble in the middle. But with that said, I can recognize what a dinosaur is. Yes? So therefore, I'm playing association, not definitive, right? So I could never have been a good attorney because, believe me, I wasn't actually reading the whole contract. But I know how to find the clause that I need to read, right? There's a little bit of difference in that. So when working with people, most of the time it's like there's a difference like being funny and being witty, right? I'm probably not funny at all. I'm pretty witty because I'm really fast.
Right.
Like I can recognize my processor and my random access memory, the RAM.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can keep my RAM, which is super expensive these days, if I can keep my RAM high enough with enough acuity, that's all you need. Random access memory. So when you start seeing patterns, which is really how dyslexics get by, I guess at the rest of the sentence, it's like F9 predictive texting, right?
Right.
As soon as I get enough information, I'm already at the period because I know that I can't nuance the middle, right? So in dealing with people, one, always be prepared, do your homework, take your notes. I don't ask questions because most people tell you anyway. And when you start asking questions, they start shutting down the information and they quantize it in a way they pretended or whatever, practiced, either way.
Sure.
And what I find, though, is that conversationally, like, I'm only married to my wife. Everything else is a good idea. And what I mean by that is, like, if I can just get you to start talking, you're going to tell me, this is what I really like. Oh, my God, I wear that. Ugh, my favorite scent is... And then you just have to take the pieces and, make the puzzle. And that's,
and hustle.
That's problem solving.
Yep.
It's so funny. We're getting to know you, as our audience is getting to know you. And we often talk about how people are built for a certain thing. And I'm just talking to you and, man, it feels like you were built for this. You know what I mean? And I guess the question is it safe to say that if dyslexia was not a part of the equation, I don't think you'd be doing any of this?
I wouldn't be. So I've said before, I have 3 sisters, and the fastest way for us to drive our mother crazy, who's like a complete learned, only classical music type person, is my 3 sisters and I just talk in film and music quotes. Now, we know exactly what we're saying to each other because of the subtext. You know that game? You know the game, right?
Yes.
Because of the subtext.
I do know the game.
Right? And where you put the emphasis is really what you're saying. You know what I mean? And that game is a game that I've played my whole life. So I still play it with people. Again, another thing I do when it drives people crazy in jiu-jitsu. So when I'm rolling and we're having like a really aggressive match, I'm actually listening to the music and I'll start talking to you in the song lyrics and everyone, what are you talking about? I'm like, nothing, dude. It's the lyric right there. It drives people nuts. But that disarmament, that ability to like make somebody shake a second, that's actually when you get somebody. And that's in conversation, the same thing. It's why, like, you'll say oh, man, those are really nice shoes. Do I actually care about your shoes? Probably not. I mean, I might if they're super nice. But it's just to get you to start talking about, oh, man, you know where I got them? No, I have no idea where you got them. Tell me about it. And then, that it unfurls.
Sure.
And that's...
Sure.
It
opens the door to other...
thing.
Yeah, like, it opens the door to other avenues, right.
I'm curious about the jiu-jitsu. So with your wiring and with the way you're put together, did you gravitate towards that type of a sport versus other sports? Because it just, the stimulation and everything else was just better for you.
My actual sport as a child was judo. Okay. And I wrestled in high school just because it got me out of gym class. But my actual sport was judo, which is essentially jiu-jitsu standing. And I started jiu-jitsu when I was 40, mostly because I had like a Groundhog's Day moment. I was sitting on the couch and I kept watching my wife go to the gym. And I said to myself, man, this is not going to end well. So I found something to do. I was fortunate enough for a period of time to work with some really big kind of UFC, jiu-jitsu fighter, combat sports guys. And I said to myself, dude, you love that. Why aren't you doing it? So I found a jiu-jitsu gym, and here I am a bajillion years later. But I gravitate towards that is high-speed consequence problem solving. You can't think about anything else while you're doing jiu-jitsu. You are doing jiu-jitsu, right? Like, the rest of the world has totally faded away. And it's shapes and colors and high-speed consequences and questions and answers and problem solving all wrapped up into a bow. And now in my 50s, like, I was rolling with some kid this morning that's like a 21-year-old police officer who wrestled in college, and he came at me like a whirling dervish, and I just sat there at half speed, like chewing gum. Like, I really hope I was annoying him, like chewing gum and popping bubbles as I was like, sweeping him and throwing him across the room. And he was just like, and I wasn't paying, nothing against him, very nice guy, but I wasn't paying any attention to him. So that ability, like, it's the same thing of, like, in most situations, if you can keep your calm, right? If you're able to push through again, repeating 3rd grade is exceedingly embarrassing in a small school in northern New Jersey, the Orchard School in Ridgewood, New Jersey. It was embarrassing. It was really devastatingly embarrassing. Fortunately for me, I had an older sister, so nobody made fun of me per se, but It was very embarrassing. So you begin to start saying to yourself, well, I don't want that to happen again. I can't actually fix this thing. My eyes just aren't doing their thing. What can you do? What's oh, I can pay attention and just be nice to the teacher. And when they ask me the question, I just literally say back to them the thing they said to me, just in a little different phrasing. I can do that. And that got me along the path. And then you start finding things that you actually are interested in. So it's not that I have a problem with school. I just couldn't read. I really like math. I really like sciences. I love history, but I needed to understand contextually how to get it in my noggin because the eyes weren't doing that. And as soon as you do that, you're like, wow, I love geometry. I'm pretty good at chemistry. Physics is fun, like, and and I still couldn't, believe me, I couldn't read it. I just could figure it out. And it's super important. Like, it's the thing that bothers me about most people that give up after the first try. You're like, dude, if you could do that already, you have to learn it. It's
for sure.
It's another thing. So the best piece of advice I've gotten as an adult, bar none, was actually at a jiu-jitsu seminar. I had he was like 15-time world champ, and I was a white belt in my 40s. And he said to me, brother, you really have to learn to flow with the go. And I looked at him and I said, don't you mean go with the flow? And he said to me, no, I speak 5 languages, though English might be broken. I'm okay, explain this to me. And he said, well, if you go with the flow, you will fall for anything. Now, mind you, he was talking jiu-jitsu. So good luck with that. However, if you learn to flow with the go, you will wait for your opportunity. Doesn't matter the pressure, doesn't matter the pain. And when that opening happens, you will attack, and then you will win the day. And I carried that, like, literally, it blew my mind, not just for jiu-jitsu, but how I also try to approach life. Like, what am I going to try to run through that wall? It's moving. If I just wait long enough, there's the opening, go. Right? It's the same. It's why dyslexia, though, was like embarrassing. It never stopped me. It was just the thing that was beating me up. Okay, I got to wait for the opportunity. There's the opportunity. I'm going to take it. I found a band. My eyes closed. Literally, I saw it. I know what to do with it, guys. Go.
Well, let's go flow with the go towards ToneWell. So your chocolate, your peanut butter, how does this come onto your radar screen? Give us some background on that.
Sure. So as I said earlier, I was working with a PEMF company, Pulse Electronic Magnification Frequency, and it uses a magnet with a Tesla coil wrapped around it, and they deliver. It's for like healing modalities. And this particular one was an FDA-approved company that specialized in autoimmune, specifically Lyme's disease treatment. And as I said earlier, what made them special was the waveform that they're able to change the shape of to carry the frequencies that are important. So there's a difference between, like, my meniscus is torn, I have Lyme's disease or Crohn's, or I'm in a bad mood because there's a new moon. All things you can talk about, but totally different opportunities. So as I said, in having that conversation with their team, I came across technology that has become ToneWell. And what we do is we take a 30-second voice clip, we run it through our analysis, we extract a couple thousand biomarkers, and then we deliver a wellness report to our clients in under 5 minutes. I think that the world is drowning in data. I should start with that. And I think that because the world is drowning in data, you still come up short with 2 very important yet basic questions. Why don't I feel well? Why aren't I functioning well? And you can have all the data and all the information, and it can come to you in piles and piles and oceans full. But unless you understand how to translate it into an action plan, none of it matters. You're just tracking problems. So what we do with ToneWell is we take our output, our analysis, our couple thousand biomarkers, and we turn them into an actionable report. And answers with actions, okay? Because I believe if I can help you build a better relationship with yourself, you'll start living a better life. And then I can talk to you about your well-being as opposed to wellness, which is a sales category. So what we do is we deliver a report. It's like your top 5 things you should understand that's going on right now. It's a snapshot in time right now. We're not a diagnostic. We're an analysis. We're an analytic. They're a little bit different. A diagnostic is telling what's going wrong with you, is what I diagnose. And an analytic is telling you what's going on with you. So I'm telling you what's going on with you in this time and place. And what we do is we give you a top 5 these are the things to look at. They're color coded: red, yellow, green. Green's pretty simple. It's going well for you. Should always lead with something that's good. Yellow is stuff that's on your radar. Pay attention to this. This is what you should understand. And red is full stop. This is what you need to deal with today. It could be your sleep, your hydration, your stress, your pathogens, your toxins, your inflammation, your digestion. We have 8 major categories. And inside of that, most things are actually relatively manageable. I'm not sleeping well tonight. It could be something like your GABA receptor of your magnesium glycinate is low. And if I could say to you, hey, man, maybe just take 300 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, you can get that anywhere. Legitimately anywhere. Doesn't need to be the best version, the best spoke private. I made it myself. It could just go to any pharmacy, any supermarket, start there. And if you can do that, and I can help you feel better, it's like the one argument you can't ever win with somebody, how they feel.
Right.
But if I can start changing your perception of things and helping you make little tiny choices, the choices you make limit the choices you have. That is not bad. It could be great if I'm making great choices. Bad choices just start going away, right? So if I start making better choices, then I make better habits, and better habits have better results, and better results is your better wellness. And, and that's what got me into it, just because I saw in the marketplace that is hot, flat, and crowded. There's no question to it. There's a million wearables and new AI health ports. And I had somebody ask me yesterday, because I'm raising capital right now, well, aren't you scared that Google and Fitbit just put out a $99 Fitbit and it's run by Google and your scan is just $99? And I said, no, not really. And they said, why not? I said, because they're different opportunities. Like
Right.
They're not, it's chalk and cheese. They might actually be the same shape, but believe me, bite into both of them. They're totally different, right? So
I've never heard that before. I like that line.
We're gonna steal that one.
Yeah, go for it. So I just say that to say, like, for us, what we're trying to do in ToneWell, as I just said, is like help you build a better relationship with yourself. I'm willing to bet you that, and I use this as my own example because I had no idea, and I still don't actually know what it's for. When I did a ToneWell months and months ago, it told me my boron was low. Now, my wife happens to be a nurse and a wellness practitioner and runs her own practice, and I was like, what's this? And she explained it to me. I still don't know. And I said, wow, it tells me I should do it. She's like, I'll go get it for you. Like right up the store. I came back and I now take it. And she's like, had I known, I would have gotten this for you earlier. It could be in your zinc complex or whatever. I just didn't know.
Right.
Because how would I have known? Who knows?
Right.
Why would you have thought about boron?
Of all things, right.
So help me understand the nuts and bolts of it, because I understand sine waves and autophase and all that stuff. Are you saying that the 30 seconds, it's not important what the content is? You're just taking biomarkers of whether your voice is in phase or out of phase?
So we're not listening to the words at all. I say this to
right. Content is not important.
Use it as a confessional. Doesn't matter.
There's no point in me saying I'm feeling sick today, etc. I can say,
Doesn't
hi,
matter
my name
what
is
you say.
Tushar, and that's it.
Okay, so let's back this up for a second.
Yeah, please.
I should start and say that your nervous system and your physiology are broadcasting at all time. So for us, there's 30, 40, 50 years, starting from Wilhelm Reich and Tesla before that, all the way through the CDC, Harvard, the Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins have all been studying how voice is a marker, right? Because if you've sent to somebody, I don't have the bandwidth for that. That didn't resonate with me. I don't really vibe with that. Or my favorite, you better watch your tone when you talk to me. Right? Those are frequency words, but we're just not taking them on their face value, meaning that I don't have the bandwidth means I can only go from A to B. And if you're on the other side of it, I can't hear you like a radio dial. That didn't resonate with me. It's like me saying to you that piece of music made your hair stand up because it literally resonated your cells and made the hair stand up. I didn't vibe with that as saying our vibrations are different and tone is tone. Right. So what we're doing is we're taking the temporal, the acoustic, the hertz, because it is a wavelength, peak and valley. Right.
Right.
We are taking the cadence. And so in cardiology, where they use voice is for what we'll call the tremolo. Right. Because your voice should not be doing that, which means that there's an inconsistency. And that's a very fast marker right now, as opposed to blood that takes a while to the lab and back. or
Sure.
kids with ADHD. The American Medical Association in 2015 put out a study that they use the word diagnose, not mine, diagnose ADHD because of the patterns by which kids speak, right? So these things have been used for a long time. What we did, and why I make the distinction that we use a locked database, very important, and I'll get to that in a second. So we've been using computer learning for 10 years, we being my group. And inside of that, we said, these are the things that we want to look at. I want all of the hormones, all of the cannabinoids, all of the organs, all of the whatever, and a huge list, 100,000 plus. And when they became exactas, we then locked them into place. So our company doesn't use computer learning. That would be in my research lab. What we do is we have a static database. What I mean by that, it's locked in. This number represents that thing, right? That way it's scalable. I can do 1,000 people in a minute. It's defensible. I can show you where it comes from, and you can audit it, which is the important part here. How do I know that's true? Well, let's move you backwards, right? And then in that, just to make this simple techie, my output is a JSON script out of my cloud. So once I have a JSON script of the information baked into that, I can make it look like anything. You want nutrition, you want hormones, you want mindfulness, I'm looking at your vitamins and your minerals and your hormones and your organs and the pathogens in you and the toxins in you and your musculature. The musculature one is the one that freaks people out, when I can literally be like, oh, I get it. Your L1 is sore. And you're like, how the hell did you do that? And you're like, well, I guess you should maybe understand that the primal meridian grid of your entire body is like the garden hose in the backyard, and where there's a kink, there's no water, so the energy isn't flowing. Or if you talk to people that meditate and they're like, I'm in my root chakra trying to get to my crown, and you say something to them like, oh, 748. That's the actual frequency from this one to that one. And unless you hit it, which goes back to me being in music. When I produce music and somebody said, well, I need to limit that because the frequency is fighting the other one, you would say to them, cool, we can just put a compression gate on it. So it locks, it hits a certain number and then locks. So that actually is your chakra, right? You need to get the gate open so that it flows up and through. So since all of the metaphysics and the reality of what we live in is based upon waveform and frequency, that's what we're measuring.
All right. So you kind of took a question away that I wanted to ask, but it gave me another one. So have you moved from being a music DJ to a health DJ? Is at this point? Is that what you are now?
Here's the thing.
I like that.
I am a how can I help you kind of human being. Always happen.
Right.
So yes, it's funny because I have a unique ability to have a conversation, and I'm pretty good at like relevant, let me give you an analogy for that. I have absolutely no desire in the world for anybody to know who I am, which is a strange thing as a founder, as an entrepreneur, particularly sitting on a podcast being interviewed. But there is unless you ask me the question, I don't actually answer it type person. Because I believe that everybody's on their own individual journey. I think that where we're left off, though, on like the where am I and how do I get home is kind of where we come in. It's what I was saying earlier. Like I'm watching the world drown in data, right? And because I have ToneWell and I'm running a startup, it's not paying my bills, right? I have a business. And where I'm consulting for people is in agentic workflows. I obviously use a lot of them. So like in having conversations with people, they're stuck on like things that aren't actually the problem. It's not actually a problem. Matter of fact, you'll have a much better time with ChatGPT if you stop typing, which is thinking, and just hit the microphone and talk to it.
I do it all day long.
Yeah.
Right? But there are people who are like, well, I don't know what to write. And you're like, yes, because you're thinking paragraph sentence structure.
I probably save 45 minutes a day by talking to it rather than typing to it.
And you come up with a much better solution, actually, because
Absolutely.
You're actually engaged in a conversation, as silly as that sounds to an inanimate object, but those type things are where people get stuck. So for me, on like the wellness side of things, like I was a philosophy major that left the University of Vermont early. Like you do, like I'm not giving you any advice. I'm simply telling you what I've seen in the world. I've been to 50 countries. I've watched enough things fall apart.
You're kind of killing the last question of our show.
Sorry. Look at that. I have a crystal ball and I can tell you what you're going to ask next. It's just.
I got to say, for somebody who has trouble spelling words and seeing words, a lot of big ones.
Yeah,
Sure do.
I was also raised by a parent. This is the one knock on my parents that I'll put out there. I was not allowed to speak as a child unless my grammar and syntax were correct. And I mean,
Wow.
which is why I had very few foibles in the way that I speak. You know what I'm saying? Likes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
As a
beaten out of
broadcaster,
me.
that's one of the things we have to work on to make sure that we don't use
Yes.
those, because
Sure.
it's a killer.
It was beaten out of me. And as I said earlier, my formative years in New York, I was the only kid that looked like me in New York City, and I actually liked to fight. And you'd be amazed how easy it is to get somebody to punch you when you insult them with big words.
Shocked.
Shocking, right? Yeah.
I think we found the name of the show. I think we found the name of the episode. It's really easy to get people
How
to
to get
punch
people
you.
to punch you in the face.
How to get people to punch you in the face is the name of this episode. My last question to you will be, what's it like now for you to be a boss? You've worked for a lot of people, worked in a lot of organizations. Now you're the boss. So what's that like?
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that is helping me build this out the other day. And he said something to me that actually kind of made me chuckle. He said, "Man, you are so much calmer as the guy running the show than you are as the guy not running the show." To which I said to him, "Yeah, I am, because this one matters to me."
Right.
Like
Doing it for you.
Yeah, I'm here to listen. Like, I was talking to one of our biz dev guys today, and he brought me a course that he wants to go take. I said, "Yeah, we'll pay for that." He said, "Really?" I said, "Oh yeah. Like, I'm in for continuing education." Had you asked me that on behalf of a client, I would be like, "Yeah, tell them to take a fucking walk." Excuse my language. Tell them to go for a walk. You know what I mean? Like, because you have to. I want to be successful. I want my company to be ubiquitous. I want everybody to use it, because I think that we can make a difference in people's lives. So even though I get the opportunity to run the show, I actually have removed myself from it. And I'm looking at it like I'm just driving somebody else's car. I'm the steward to this thing. Meanwhile, when I represent clients, I've always been bad cop. I'm happy to do it, because I'll go home and I have a dog and 2 cats, and my wife loves me, and I can go for a walk. It's cool. I don't take it personally,
Well, I do have to ask the advice question whether you want me to or not.
You can tell us to screw off.
Doesn't mean I won't give you. Doesn't mean I won't give you some.
Exactly.
So a kid or a student, young person coming out of school right now, I mean, the world is flipping upside down and changing so fast. You have kids. I'm sure you've thought about this. What advice are you giving a young person who's coming into the world today?
Don't pay any attention.
What does that mean?
It means exactly that. Turn off the news, get off the socials, recognize that you are just a rat in a cage, and I'm not trying to be flippant. You are stuck in somebody else's maze. It is not your maze. You did not create the maze. You will not change the maze. The maze was actually designed to keep you exactly where you are. The world, the universe, and whatever goes beyond it is a magical place. If you want to go create something, go create something. It is always Chicken Little. The sky is always falling. They are coming for us. Nobody will ever save you. All of those things are true. So why are you going to dwell on them? Know them. It's what I say to most people is, and I said this at some point about rearview mirror, I live through the windshield. What I mean by that is the rearview mirror is the size that it is proportioned to the windshield, because you're just trying to keep the objects behind you. It's just so you know that the thing behind you doesn't chase up and catch you. That's what it's there for. Not staring into it, because then you'll crash into the thing in front of you. It's that you glance at it to make sure it's there. So don't live in the mistake. Don't live in the past. And definitively do not listen to the noise. You will never do anything that way. Now, the other side of it is choose something, follow your bliss, go chase it to the end of times, because you don't know. I happen to have been on my way to 9/11, and because of the universe tapping me on the shoulder, I missed my train that would have put me under from Hoboken, New Jersey into New York. I missed my train that would have put me under the World Trade Center, and I was on my way to a meeting in that tower, and my roommate at the time had forgotten his wallet, and I decided to wait for him. And that one insignificant choice made all of the difference, right? It's the road less taken. It made all of the difference. So I will say, you will never know the amount of time. You'll know exactly how much money you have in your bank account. You have no idea how much time is on your watch. So if you wait, if you think about it, if you don't, now make good choices. Make good choices.
Yep.
But
There's no
you
wrong
don't go
ones,
do it,
actually.
nothing's going to happen. You know?
No wrong choices.
No, there are no wrong choices. Actually,
Because you have to just keep making choices.
No,
and keep
there are
going.
no wrong choices. It's a very apt name for your podcast. There are. I don't want to do that again, but it's not a bad choice. As I said earlier,
Yep,
my
you
father
learn
said to
from
me.
it.
My father said to me in the entirety of my life, the choices you make limit the choices you have. That is not a bad or a good thing. It is the truth. So just there are no wrong choices. Just recognize that there are consequences, and maybe you're not going to do that again, right? And that's the only advice I give to people is like it's if you can see it, you can go be it. If you want to go do something, go do something. Particularly as the world is getting smaller and flatter and hotter. If you're not willing to be an outlier, then you have no complaint ever. So it's like, get at it, go do it, and go to
Great
trade school.
advice.
Great advice.
Love that.
Absolutely true. If people want to learn more about ToneWell, where should they go and what should they do?
So ToneWell can be found at tonewell.co, TONEWELL.co. I am Alex at tonewell.co. I have no unread emails, text messages. It's like the OCD that I have. So if anybody has questions or would like just to say hello or, challenge me to a jiu-jitsu match, whatever.
Tushar, I think that's you.
Yeah.
Check out your portrait collection. Is that possible?
Yeah, cool. But yeah, so that's where to find us. And we're always here to help.
So that was Alex Fredericks with a remarkable story of a kid having some really meaningful challenges, finding a way to push through and to create a journey for themselves that was really remarkable. What an interesting guy.
I'll say this: he's definitely a character. One of the real characters we've had on the program with us before. Yeah, I think the best way to describe him is as someone who really understood, like, he was dealt a bad hand, maybe to start with, but he understood how to play his cards right, and he's turned himself into a rather big success because of it. He's very visual. Let's be honest; he's a very visual guy. He is not, as he said, he's not much of a someone who can kind of, maybe if you ask him to sit down and read a contract, he's not going to know how to do that straight away, but he will be able to pick up the concepts easy enough and then translate them back to what he needs to, and then translate them back to what you need as well. It was really quite remarkable. His entire story, I was very impressed with. He is one of those guys that, we want to have on a show like this that talk about there are no wrong paths when you're trying to be successful.
Yeah, no wrong choices. That's what we talk about all the time.
Exactly.
I was trying to think if he would be good at Scrabble or not, because he knows all those triple word score words, but I don't think he could spell them. So that might be a
Yes, ricochet was a problem, right? If I remember correctly.
I loved the way he, as you said, found a way. He worked his way in and out of these various worlds, kind of flawlessly and seamlessly, into the music business, out of the music business, into the health field, out of the health field. He really knew how to work people and work magic in these fields. And I think it's really inspiring to hear him talk about, how he helps people and how he likes to get things across to people and help their lives and transform their lives. It was really fascinating. We've never really had a guest like this. And I guess he's really impressive in that he found a way, with the dyslexia and everything. He found a way that worked for him to become successful. And that is really admirable.
I was very impressed with this one thing, is that the notion of him being maybe not so much of a straight up problem solver, but someone who is a big concept guy. Like, we've had plenty of people on who have been problem solvers. Like, you put problem A in front of them, they solve problem A and move to problem B. He is more along the lines of, like, okay, I see problem A, but I want to try and solve problem A through problem M all at the same time. And that's the kind of big thinkers that we kind of need at times. And he really has used, as you said before, Shay, is that, he used that dyslexia to kind of, maybe have a wider view of when he had to come in to solve problems. Maybe someone's asking him to solve problem A, but he's like, okay, I can do that, and then solve 10 more problems down the line as well.
Yeah, and he said it himself. He wouldn't be the person he is if he didn't have this dyslexia, because it helped him fix his world and have it work for him instead of against him, which is really cool.
That's exactly right. I've worked with some really remarkable people who deal with dyslexia, deal with other learning disabilities. And I've found it truly amazing how it's almost like a blind person develops better hearing, or a deaf person develops better sight. Learning disabilities work very much in the same way. I worked with somebody who was extremely dyslexic at one point in my journey, and his memory was absolutely unbelievable. It was the most uncanny thing I've ever seen. And his ability to connect with people and to build relationships, and the way that person gravitated towards where they fit and where their strengths were, was something really remarkable to see. And they became unbelievably successful. And it's clear that Alex followed a very, very similar path. So for anybody out there who is dealing with, these types of challenges, just look to Alex to know that anything is possible and that you can become incredibly successful. So with that in mind, Alex Fredericks, thank you so much for joining us today. And if anybody out there wants to learn more about his company, it's ToneWell, and go to tonewell.co to learn more. On behalf of Larry Shea, Tushar Saxena, and me, Larry Samuels, thank you so much for listening to this episode of No Wrong Choices. If our conversation inspired you to think of somebody who could be a great guest, please let us know via the contact page of our website at norongchoices.com. While you're there, be sure to check out our blog that provides a deeper look into all of our guests. We also encourage you to connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Your support enables us to keep bringing these great stories to life. Thank you again for joining us.